The sky above the Nevada desert was an endless expanse of blue, broken only by the occasional wisp of cloud. The air shimmered with heat, and the dry earth stretched out like a cracked mirror under the blazing sun. But today, something far more extraordinary than the weather had captured everyone's attention. Hovering in the sky was a massive alien spacecraft, its surface gleaming like polished silver. It descended slowly, effortlessly, as if defying the laws of physics. The ground trembled beneath its weight, though no one could see any engines or propulsion systems keeping it aloft. Dr. Aaron Blake wiped sweat from his brow as he stepped out of the armored vehicle that had brought him and his team to this desolate location. His heart raced, not just from the oppressive heat, but also from the sheer magnitude of what was happening. For decades, humanity had wondered if they were alone in the universe. Now, here was proof that they weren't. And yet, instead of feeling excitement, Aaron felt a gnawing sense of unease. Something about the situation didn't sit right. Beside him stood Lisa Monroe, a diplomat known for her calm demeanor and sharp mind. She adjusted her sunglasses and scanned the horizon. Soldiers surrounded them, their weapons at the ready, though orders were clear: no hostile action unless provoked. Behind them, scientists busied themselves setting up equipment to monitor the event. Cameras clicked and whirred, capturing every second for posterity, or perhaps evidence, should things go wrong. "They're not landing," Aaron muttered, breaking the tense silence between him and Lisa. He pointed toward the ship, which now hovered motionless about 50 feet above the ground. "Why aren't they touching down?" Lisa shrugged, though her expression betrayed her own concerns. "Maybe they don't want to risk damaging our planet, or maybe they're being cautious." Aaron frowned. "Or maybe they don't trust us." Before Lisa could respond, the ship began to change. A section of its smooth surface rippled, then split open like a flower blooming in fast forward. From within emerged a group of beings, tall, slender, and unmistakably alien. Their skin shimmered faintly, reflecting light in hues of green and gold. They wore flowing robes that seemed to shift colors with each step they took. Most striking of all were their eyes, large, luminous, and devoid of pupils, giving them an almost hypnotic quality. One of the aliens stepped forward, raising a hand in what appeared to be a gesture of peace. In response, a small device on his wrist hummed to life, projecting a voice into the air around them. The words came out in perfect English, smooth and measured. "We are the Valeth. We come seeking refuge." A murmur rippled through the assembled humans. Refuge. That wasn't what anyone had expected. Aaron exchanged a glance with Lisa, who looked equally bewildered. Before either of them could speak, the alien continued. "Our world has been destroyed by war. We seek sanctuary among your kind. We mean you no harm." Aaron wanted to believe him. The tone of the alien's voice, calm, sincere, was convincing. But there was something off, something he couldn't quite put his finger on. Why had they chosen Earth? And why now? Questions swirled in his mind, but before he could voice any of them, Lisa stepped forward. "Welcome," she said, her voice steady despite the weight of the moment. "We are honored to meet you. My name is Lisa Monroe, and this is Dr. Aaron Blake. We represent the people of Earth." The alien inclined his head slightly. "I am Zurek, leader of my people." His gaze swept over the crowd, lingering briefly on the soldiers before returning to Lisa. "We wish to speak further, to negotiate terms for coexistence." Aaron felt a chill run down his spine. Coexistence sounded promising, but the word negotiate carried implications that made him uneasy. Still, there was no turning back now. Whatever happened next would shape the future of humanity, and possibly determine whether Earth remained their home or became something else entirely. The meeting between humans and the Valeth took place in a hastily assembled tent near the alien ship. Inside, the air was thick with tension, despite the portable air conditioners humming loudly in the background. The long table separated the two groups, with Zurek and his companions on one side, and Aaron, Lisa, and a few key representatives from Earth's governments on the other. The alien leader sat perfectly still, his shimmering robes casting faint reflections on the walls of the tent. His large, luminous eyes seemed to pierce through everyone present, as if he could see straight into their thoughts. Aaron leaned forward, trying to appear calm, though his hands gripped the edge of the table tightly. "You mentioned that your world was destroyed by war," he began, his voice steady but cautious. "Can you tell us more about what happened? And why did you choose Earth?" Zirak tilted his head slightly, as if considering how much to reveal. "Our home was consumed by conflict, a war fought over resources and survival. When it became clear that our planet could no longer sustain life, we sought new beginnings elsewhere. Your world is suitable for us." "Suitable?" Chris Harper, a military strategist sitting at the far end of the table, interrupted sharply. "What does that mean exactly? Are you saying you plan to live here, with us?" Zirak's expression didn't change, but there was a pause before he responded. "We seek harmony, coexistence. We do not wish to harm your kind." Lisa shot Chris a warning glance, silently urging him to stay calm. She turned back to Zirak, her tone measured. "We appreciate your desire for peace, but this is a significant decision. Humanity will need time to process and discuss your request." Zirak nodded slowly, though his glowing eyes narrowed almost imperceptibly. "Time is a luxury we cannot afford. Our journey has been long, and our people grow weary. We require swift resolution." Aaron exchanged a glance with Lisa. Something about Zirak's words felt rehearsed, too polished. It was as if he were reciting lines, rather than engaging in genuine conversation. Aaron decided to probe further. "You mentioned coexistence, but how do you envision that working? Two intelligent species sharing one planet. Isn't that bound to create challenges?" For the first time, one of Zirak's companions spoke up. Her voice, projected through a similar wrist device, was softer but carried an underlying firmness. "Adaptation will be necessary, for both sides. We are prepared to make sacrifices. Are you?" The room fell silent. The weight of her question hung in the air like a storm cloud. "Sacrifices? What kind of sacrifices?" Aaron opened his mouth to ask, but Lisa beat him to it. "Sacrifices imply loss. Can you clarify what you mean?" Before Zirak could answer, a sudden commotion outside interrupted the discussion. Soldiers rushed past the tent, shouting orders. Through the open flap, Aaron caught sight of strange symbols glowing faintly on the ground near the alien ship. They hadn't been there before. He frowned, leaning closer to Lisa. "Did you notice those earlier?" She shook her head, her brow furrowing. "No, I didn't. Do you think they're important?" Before they could investigate further, Zirak stood abruptly, signaling the end of the meeting. "We have shared enough for now. Further discussions will follow once we assess your readiness." As the aliens departed, Chris leaned in close to Aaron and Lisa, his voice low and urgent. "There's something off about them. Did you hear how vague they were? Adaptation. Sacrifices. That's corporate speak for disaster." Aaron hesitated, torn between skepticism and hope. "Maybe they're just being careful because they don't fully trust us yet. Or maybe we shouldn't trust them," Chris countered, his jaw tightening. "We need answers, and soon." Later that evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Aaron couldn't shake the feeling that they were walking into a trap. He joined Lisa outside the tent, where she stood staring at the glowing symbols etched into the earth. Neither of them said anything for a moment. The eerie markings spoke volumes on their own. "What do you think they mean?" Lisa finally asked, breaking the silence. Aaron shook his head. "I don't know, but I think it's time we found out." In the days following the aliens' arrival, strange things began happening all over the world. At first, they were small and easy to dismiss. Electronic devices flickering on and off, cars stalling for no reason, cell phones losing signal in areas where reception had always been strong. But soon, the anomalies grew harder to ignore. In rural towns, crops withered overnight, leaving fields barren and farmers desperate. Animals acted strangely, too. Cows refused to leave their barns, birds abandoned their nests, and even household pets seemed restless, pacing back and forth, as if sensing danger. Kelly Dawson, a journalist from a small town called Crestwood, noticed these changes while visiting her parents. She had come home to write a feature about how the arrival of the Vailith was affecting ordinary people, but what she found instead was far more unsettling. Neighbors whispered about shadowy figures seen wandering the streets late at night. One elderly man claimed he'd spotted glowing eyes peeking through his window. Another family reported hearing strange whispers coming from the woods behind their house. At first, Kelly thought it was just paranoia fueled by fear of the unknown, but then she started noticing odd details herself. While walking through town one evening, she stumbled upon something that sent chills down her spine. Cryptic messages scrawled on the walls of an abandoned building. The words were written in jagged, uneven letters, as if whoever had made them was in a hurry. "They are not what they seem," one message read. Another simply said, "Run." Kelly snapped photos of the graffiti, her hands trembling slightly. Who, or what, had left these warnings? And why? Back at her childhood home, Kelly spent hours researching online, searching for similar reports. To her surprise, she wasn't alone. Across the country, people were sharing stories of unexplained phenomena linked to the Vailith's arrival. In Michigan, a farmer swore his tractor moved on its own after parking it for the night. In Texas, a mother posted video footage of her baby monitor picking up distorted voices, speaking in a language she didn't recognize. The comments under these posts ranged from disbelief to outright panic, with some users urging others to prepare for the worst. Determined to dig deeper, Kelly drove to a nearby gas station to interview locals. Most were reluctant to talk, glancing nervously toward the horizon, as if expecting something to appear. One man, however, agreed to speak, on the condition that Kelly wouldn't use his name. "I saw them," he muttered, his voice barely above a whisper. "The aliens, or whatever they really are. They're not like us." "What do you mean?" Kelly asked, leaning closer. "They change. I don't know how else to explain it. One moment, they look normal, like those pictures we've seen. But then, when you least expect it, their skin starts shifting, like liquid metal or something. And their eyes, they glow brighter than before." Kelly scribbled notes furiously, her pulse racing. If this man was telling the truth, then the Vailith might be hiding something big. She decided to visit the site where the alien ship had landed, hoping to gather more information. When she arrived, the area was cordoned off, guarded by soldiers who turned her away without explanation. Undeterred, she circled the perimeter, snapping photos and jotting down observations. That's when she noticed something peculiar. The ground near the ship looked different, almost scorched, and faint symbols similar to the ones she'd seen in Crestwood were etched into the dirt. As night fell, Kelly felt a growing sense of dread. Something wasn't right. Not with the aliens, not with the world around her, and certainly not with the secrets buried beneath the surface. Whatever truths lay hidden, she knew one thing for certain: humanity needed to wake up before it was too late. Back at the command center, Chris Harper sat hunched over a pile of dusty files he had uncovered in a forgotten corner of the military archives. The documents were old, some dating back decades, and they contained information that made his blood run cold. According to the files, Earth's governments had known about extraterrestrial life for years, long before the Vailith ever arrived. There were records of intercepted signals, mysterious disappearances, and even classified missions to investigate unidentified objects in space. But what disturbed Chris most was the section detailing past encounters with alien species. These encounters hadn't ended well. In some cases, entire teams sent to make contact had vanished without a trace. In others, the aliens had turned hostile after initially appearing peaceful. Chris clenched his fists, anger bubbling inside him. "They knew," he muttered under his breath. "They knew this could happen, and they didn't tell us." Aaron walked into the room just as Chris slammed one of the folders shut. "What are you doing?" Aaron asked, his tone wary. "Reading up on our so-called leader's secrets," Chris snapped. He gestured toward the papers scattered across the table. "Did you know we've dealt with aliens before, and it didn't go smoothly? Not even close." Aaron frowned, pulling up a chair to examine the documents. As he flipped through them, his expression grew darker. The files painted a grim picture. Humanity had been played before, manipulated by beings far smarter and more advanced than themselves. One report mentioned an alien race that had tricked humans into giving up valuable resources, only to leave Earth barren and nearly uninhabitable. Another described how a different species had used mind control technology to turn people against each other. It was clear these weren't isolated incidents. They were warnings. Meanwhile, Lisa was having her own doubts. After returning from the landing site, she couldn't stop thinking about the glowing symbols etched into the ground. Something about them felt wrong, almost invasive, as if they didn't belong on Earth. She decided to take a closer look, sneaking into restricted areas of the base where surveillance footage of the Violet ship was stored. What she found shocked her. The videos showed the aliens unloading strange machinery from their ship late at night, when no one was watching. The equipment looked unlike anything human engineers had ever seen, pulsating faintly with an eerie green light. Lisa quickly called Aaron, her voice trembling. "You need to see this. I think they're hiding something big." When Aaron and Chris arrived, Lisa replayed the footage for them. Chris cursed under his breath. "That's not refuge gear. That's terraforming tech." "Terraforming?" Aaron echoed, his stomach sinking. "Are you saying they're planning to change Earth to suit their needs?" "It looks that way," Chris said grimly. "And if history is any guide, it won't end well for us." The three of them agreed to investigate further, knowing full well the risks involved. Under the cover of darkness, they slipped past security checkpoints and approached the alien ship. The air around it crackled with energy, making the hairs on their arms stand on end. Near the base of the vessel, they discovered tunnels burrowed deep into the earth, reinforced with metallic structures that pulsed faintly with the same green glow from the footage. Inside, rows of machines hummed softly, connected by thick cables that snaked through the dirt like veins. "This isn't just preparation," Lisa whispered, her voice shaking. "This is invasion." Aaron nodded, his face pale. "We can't let anyone else see this, not until we figure out how to stop them." As they hurried back to safety, the enormity of the situation weighed heavily on all of them. The Valeth weren't refugees seeking shelter. They were conquerors preparing to reshape Earth in their image. And unless humanity acted fast, there would be no turning back. Kelly's article about the strange symbols and the growing unease among townsfolk went viral within hours of being published online. Her words struck a nerve, resonating with people who had been feeling uneasy but didn't know how to express it. Comments poured in from all over the world, with readers sharing their own experiences of unexplained phenomena since the Valeth's arrival. Some posted photos of similar symbols appearing near alien landing sites in other countries. Others described bizarre occurrences, lights in the sky, sudden power outages, and even encounters with shadowy figures that vanished when approached. The public reaction was swift and chaotic. Small groups of concerned citizens began organizing protests outside government buildings, demanding answers. In some cities, these gatherings turned into angry mobs, shouting slogans like "No to alien occupation" and "Protect our planet." Social media buzzed with hashtags like #ExposeTheTruth and #Earth4Humans, spreading distrust of both the Valeth and the authorities who seemed unwilling or unable to address people's fears. In Crestwood, Kelly noticed a shift in the atmosphere. Neighbors who had once dismissed her warnings now knocked on her door, asking what they should do. One man, Jake Thompson, stood out. A former soldier with a gruff demeanor and haunted eyes, he told Kelly his family had disappeared shortly after the aliens arrived. "I don't care what the government says," he growled. "These things aren't here for peace. They're here to take what they want. Jake wasn't alone in his suspicions. Across the country, resistance groups began forming, united by a shared determination to fight back against the Vaylith. They called themselves the Free Earth Alliance, or FEA for short. Using encrypted messaging apps and underground networks, they coordinated efforts to sabotage the aliens' plans. Their members included ordinary people, teachers, mechanics, farmers, as well as ex-military personnel like Jake. Though poorly equipped compared to the advanced technology of the Vaylith, they were driven by desperation and anger. Chris Harper heard whispers of the resistance while reviewing intelligence reports at the command center. At first, he dismissed them as fringe movements, but as their activities gained momentum, he realized they might be humanity's best chance. He reached out to Aaron and Lisa, urging them to consider working with the rebels. "We can't rely on diplomacy anymore," Chris argued. "If we're going to stop the Vaylith, we need to hit them where it hurts." Aaron hesitated. The idea of violence went against everything he believed in. But after seeing the terraforming machinery hidden beneath the alien ship, he knew Chris was right. Humanity couldn't afford to wait any longer. Reluctantly, he agreed to meet with Jake and other leaders of the FEA. The meeting took place in an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of town. Shadows danced across the walls as flashlights illuminated maps and blueprints spread out on a rickety table. Jake greeted Aaron and Lisa with a firm handshake, his piercing gaze betraying years of loss and hardship. "You've seen what they're doing, haven't you?" he asked, his voice low but intense. Aaron nodded. "We have, and we need your help to stop them." Over the next hour, they discussed strategies. Jake explained that the FEA had already identified several key targets, alien installations housing mysterious equipment, and proposed launching simultaneous attacks to disrupt their operations. Lisa suggested using the information she and Aaron had gathered to pinpoint the most vulnerable points. Chris chimed in with tactical advice, drawing on his military experience. As the plan came together, Aaron felt a mix of hope and dread. This was their only shot at saving Earth, but if they failed, the consequences would be catastrophic. Still, one thing was certain. Humanity wasn't going down without a fight. The day of the global broadcast arrived, and tension hung thick in the air. The Vaylith had announced they would address humanity live, promising to share their vision for coexistence. Governments around the world urged citizens to watch, framing it as a historic moment of unity. But behind the scenes, Aaron, Lisa, Chris, and the Free Earth Alliance prepared for their most dangerous mission yet. Xerax stood at the center of a makeshift stage erected near the alien ship, flanked by his companions. Cameras from every major news outlet captured his every move as he addressed billions of viewers. His voice was calm and reassuring, but his words carried an unmistakable weight. "We come not as conquerors, but as survivors," he began. "Our home is lost, and we seek yours as sanctuary. Together, we can build a future where both our species thrive." As Xerax spoke, Lisa slipped away from the main group, her heart pounding. She had volunteered to infiltrate the alien ship during the distraction of the broadcast. Armed with a small device designed to disable the terraforming machinery, she moved quickly through the shadows, avoiding patrols of glowing-eyed Vaylith guards. Each step felt like walking on thin ice. One wrong move, and everything would collapse. Inside the ship, the air was colder, almost suffocating. Strange hums echoed through the corridors, vibrating in her chest. Following the map provided by Aaron and Chris, Lisa located the control room housing the core of the terraforming system. The room was filled with pulsating machinery, its green light casting eerie patterns on the walls. She set to work, connecting her device to the central console. Her hands trembled as she typed commands, sweat trickling down her forehead despite the chill. Back outside, Aaron and Chris monitored the situation closely. Through hidden cameras planted earlier, they watched Xerax's speech unfold. The alien leader's tone shifted subtly, becoming more commanding. "To ensure harmony, sacrifices must be made. he said, his luminous eyes scanning the crowd. "Your planet will change, as will your way of life. Resistance is futile." Aaron froze, his stomach sinking. This wasn't coexistence. It was conquest masked as cooperation. He turned to Chris, his voice barely above a whisper. "We were right. They're planning to wipe us out." Before Chris could respond, chaos erupted. Gunfire rang out as the Free Earth Alliance launched their coordinated attacks on nearby alien installations. Explosions lit up the horizon, shaking the ground beneath their feet. The Valith reacted instantly, their once calm demeanor replaced by cold efficiency. Soldiers scrambled to defend the ship while others pursued the attackers. Lisa heard the commotion and worked faster, her fingers flying over the keyboard. Just as she completed the final sequence, alarms blared throughout the ship. Red lights flashed, bathing the room in a sinister glow. Heavy footsteps echoed in the corridor. Guards were coming. She grabbed her equipment and sprinted toward the exit, her mind racing. There was no time to lose. Moments later, she burst out of the ship, nearly colliding with Aaron and Chris, who had come to cover her escape. "Did you do it?" Aaron asked urgently. "I think so," Lisa panted, clutching the device tightly. "But they know. We need to get out of here. Now." As they ran, Zyrak's amplified voice boomed behind them. "You have betrayed us," he declared, his tone icy. "For this, your world will pay." The team didn't look back. They dove into the waiting vehicle just as a swarm of Valith emerged from the ship, their forms shifting unnaturally. The engine roared to life, and they sped away, leaving destruction and betrayal in their wake. The infiltration team moved quickly, their breaths shallow as they navigated the labyrinthine corridors of the alien ship. Aaron led the way, his flashlight cutting through the dim green glow that pulsed faintly from the walls. Behind him followed Chris, Jake Thompson, and Mia Chen, a tech expert who had joined the Free Earth Alliance after losing her brother in one of the Valith's early attacks. Each step felt heavier than the last, the oppressive atmosphere of the ship pressing down on them like an invisible weight. Their mission was clear: disable the terraforming core and rescue Lisa, who had been captured during their previous attempt to sabotage the machinery. Time was running out. Zyrak's ultimatum loomed over them, a countdown to planetary annihilation unless humanity submitted completely. The stakes couldn't have been higher, but failure wasn't an option. As they approached the detention area, Mia used her handheld scanner to locate Lisa's signal. "She's 2 levels down," Mia whispered, her voice barely audible over the low hum of the ship's systems. "But there are guards everywhere." "We'll have to split up," Aaron decided, his tone firm despite the knot of fear tightening in his chest. "Mia, you stay here and monitor the systems. If anything changes, let us know immediately. Chris, Jake, and I will head down." Mia nodded, crouching behind a console as the others pressed onward. The air grew colder with each step, and the eerie silence made every sound echo unnaturally. When they reached the lower level, they found rows of glass pods lining the walls, each containing a human prisoner hooked up to glowing wires and tubes. Some were unconscious. Others stared blankly ahead, their eyes vacant as if their minds had been drained. "There," Jake hissed, pointing to a pod near the far end of the room. Inside was Lisa, pale but alive. Her eyes flickered open when she saw them, and she mouthed something silently. "Hurry." Chris pulled out a small device and began working on the lock of Lisa's pod while Aaron and Jake kept watch. The seconds ticked by agonizingly slowly, every movement feeling like it might give them away. Suddenly, a soft whirring noise filled the corridor outside, the unmistakable sound of approaching Valith guards. "We've got company," Jake warned, gripping his makeshift weapon tightly. Aaron turned to Chris. "How much longer?" "Almost there," Chris replied, his fingers moving frantically. With a final click, the pod opened and Lisa stumbled out, weak but determined. "Let's go," she urged, leaning on Aaron for support. They retraced their steps, but the guards were faster than expected. As they rounded a corner, they came face to face with three Valeth, their shimmering forms radiating menace. The aliens didn't speak. They simply lunged forward, their movements unnervingly fluid. Jake swung his weapon, striking one of them squarely in its torso, but the blow seemed to have little effect. The creature staggered briefly before regaining its composure, its skin rippling like liquid metal. "Run," Aaron shouted, pushing Lisa ahead of him. They sprinted toward the exit, dodging blasts of energy that left scorch marks on the walls. Mia met them halfway, her face pale but resolute. "I triggered an overload in the core," she gasped. "We've got maybe 5 minutes before this whole thing blows." The group raced toward the ship's main hangar, where their escape vehicle awaited. Behind them, alarms blared deafeningly, and the ship itself seemed to groan under the strain of impending destruction. Just as they reached the exit, Aaron hesitated, looking back at the chaos unfolding within the vessel. "You can't save everyone," Lisa told him firmly, grabbing his arm. "We need you alive." With a heavy heart, Aaron followed the others onto the transport, slamming the door shut behind them. The engines roared to life as the pilot, a former military pilot named Ryan, pulled away just as the first explosion rocked the ship. Bright flashes illuminated the night sky as the alien vessel imploded, collapsing into itself in a blinding burst of light. When the dust settled, the team sat in stunned silence, watching the wreckage burn. They had succeeded, but at what cost? And though the immediate threat was gone, none of them could shake the feeling that this victory was only the beginning of a much larger fight. The explosion of the alien ship lit up the night sky, a fiery beacon of destruction that could be seen for miles. The ground shook violently as debris rained down, scattering across the desert like fragments of a shattered dream. For a moment, there was silence, a collective holding of breath, as humanity waited to see what would come next. Then, slowly, cheers erupted from the scattered resistance fighters who had been watching from hiding spots nearby. They raised their fists in triumph, tears streaming down their faces. It was over, or so they thought. Inside the transport vehicle, the mood was far from celebratory. Aaron sat slumped against the wall, his face pale and streaked with dirt. Lisa rested her head on his shoulder, still weak but alive. Jake stared out the window, his jaw clenched tight, while Chris pored over a map, trying to plan their next move. Maya fiddled nervously with her scanner, checking for any signs of surviving Valeth technology or hidden threats. Despite their success, none of them felt relief, only exhaustion and dread. Back at the command center, news of the ship's destruction spread quickly. Governments around the world scrambled to respond, torn between celebrating the victory and fearing retaliation. Reports poured in from cities where smaller alien installations had been targeted by the Free Earth Alliance. Some sites were completely destroyed, others remained operational, their defenses too strong for the rebels to overcome. Worse still, strange signals began emanating from deep space, ominous pulses that experts feared might alert reinforcements. Kelly Dawson stood in the middle of Crestwood's town square, surrounded by neighbors who had gathered to hear her latest update. Her phone buzzed constantly with messages from sources worldwide, each one painting a grim picture. "They're not gone," she told the crowd, her voice trembling. "We've slowed them down, but we haven't stopped them." Her words sent a ripple of unease through the crowd. A man stepped forward, his face etched with worry. "What do we do now? We can't fight something like this alone." "We don't have a choice," Kelly replied firmly. "If we wait for someone else to save us, it'll be too late. We need to keep fighting, to protect our homes, our families, ourselves." Across the globe, similar scenes played out as ordinary people rose up to join the cause. Factories repurposed machinery to build weapons. Farmers donated food and supplies to support the resistance. Even children helped, scrawling warnings about the aliens on walls and spreading information online. Humanity, once divided by borders and beliefs, found itself united by a single purpose: survival. But the Vilith weren't done yet. In the days following the explosion, reports surfaced of shadowy figures emerging from underground bunkers, remnants of the alien forces left behind. These survivors moved silently under cover of darkness, targeting those who opposed them. Entire villages disappeared overnight, leaving behind only scorched earth and eerie symbols burned into the ground. Chris received intel about one such group holed up in an abandoned military base. He called an emergency meeting with Aaron, Lisa, Jake, and Mia. "This is bad," he said, laying out photographs of the site. "If they regroup, they'll start rebuilding their terraforming machines. We need to hit them hard. And fast." Aaron nodded, though guilt weighed heavily on him. Sacrificing innocent lives still haunted him, even if it had been necessary. "We'll strike at dawn," he said quietly. "But we'll need everyone we can get." Word spread quickly through the Free Earth Alliance, rallying volunteers from all corners of the country. By sunrise, hundreds of fighters armed with makeshift weapons and raw determination assembled near the base. As they prepared to attack, Kelly broadcast a message to the world, urging citizens to rise up wherever they were. "Today we fight not just for ourselves, but for the future of our planet," she declared. "Show them that Earth belongs to us, and no one else." With a deafening roar, the battle began. Bullets flew, explosions rocked the air, and cries of defiance echoed across the battlefield. Humanity had thrown everything they had into this fight, knowing it might cost them everything. But as the sun rose higher, painting the horizon in fiery hues, one truth became clear: Earth wasn't going down without a fight. The battle raged on with relentless intensity. The Free Earth Alliance fought with everything they had, their makeshift weapons clashing against the advanced technology of the remaining Vilith forces. Explosions lit up the sky, shaking the ground beneath their feet. Smoke filled the air, stinging their eyes and making it hard to breathe. Despite being outnumbered and outgunned, the humans refused to back down. Every loss fueled their determination. Every victory reignited their hope. Aaron stood at the edge of the chaos, his hands gripping a rifle he barely knew how to use. Beside him, Chris shouted orders, directing fighters to strategic positions. Jake led a group of rebels in a daring assault on the alien stronghold, his voice booming over the din as he urged them forward. Lisa stayed close to Mia, who worked tirelessly to disable enemy drones using her laptop and a tangle of wires scavenged from destroyed machines. As the fight dragged on, Aaron noticed something alarming. The Vilith were retreating into the heart of the base, dragging pieces of equipment with them. "They're regrouping," he yelled to Chris. "If they finish rebuilding that terraforming device, we're done for." Chris nodded grimly. "We need to take out the core, now." Aaron hesitated, glancing around at the weary faces of the fighters. They were exhausted, bleeding, and running low on ammunition. Asking them to push further felt like asking too much, but there was no other choice. He turned to Lisa, his voice breaking slightly. "I'm sorry. I thought we could trust them, but I was wrong. Now it's up to us to fix this." Lisa placed a hand on his shoulder, her expression resolute. "You don't have to do this alone. We're with you." Together, Aaron, Lisa, Chris, Jake, and Mia formed a small strike team and pushed deeper into the alien base. The corridors were eerily quiet, the only sounds coming from their footsteps and the distant rumble of explosions outside. The walls pulsed faintly with green light, casting long shadows that seemed to shift unnaturally. Every corner they turned brought new dangers: traps, automated defenses, and lurking Vilith soldiers whose forms shimmered menacingly. When they finally reached the central chamber, they found what they had feared most: a massive machine humming with energy, its surface covered in glowing runes. Wires snaked across the floor, connecting it to smaller devices scattered throughout the room. At its center was a pulsating orb, radiating waves of heat so intense it made the air shimmer. "This is it," Maya said, her voice trembling. "If we destroy this, we stop them for good." "But how?" Aaron asked, scanning the room nervously. Mia pulled out a small explosive charge. This will overload the core, but someone has to stay behind to trigger it manually. The blast radius is too big to escape. For a moment, no one spoke. Then Aaron stepped forward, his jaw set. I'll do it. No, Lisa protested, grabbing his arm. You can't. I have to, Aaron replied softly. This is my fault. I trusted them when I shouldn't have. Let me make it right. Before anyone could argue further, he took the charge from Mia and moved toward the machine. His friends watched helplessly as he planted the device near the orb, typing commands into a handheld console. Tears streamed down Lisa's face as she whispered, "Thank you." Aaron gave them one last smile before pressing the activation button. Go. Now. The others ran as fast as they could, reaching the exit just as the countdown reached 0. Behind them, the core erupted in a blinding flash of light, shaking the entire base to its foundation. When they turned back, all that remained was a smoldering crater. Silence fell over the battlefield. The surviving humans gathered together, battered but alive. Though Aaron was gone, his sacrifice had saved them, and possibly the world. As the sun broke through the smoke-filled sky, Lisa whispered, "We won't forget you." The days that followed the battle were a blur of grief and rebuilding. The world was scared, both physically and emotionally. But there was also a fragile sense of hope. Cities bore the marks of destruction, with crumbled buildings and streets littered with debris. Yet amidst the ruins, people began to come together in ways they never had before. Neighbors helped neighbors rebuild homes. Strangers shared food and supplies. Communities formed bonds stronger than any walls could ever provide. Chris Harper took on a leadership role, coordinating efforts to restore order and protect what remained of humanity's future. He worked tirelessly, meeting with resistance leaders, organizing relief missions, and ensuring that Earth's defenses were strengthened against any potential threats from space. Though he carried the weight of loss heavily, Aaron's sacrifice still fresh in his mind. He refused to let despair take hold. "We've been given a second chance," he told anyone who would listen. "Let's make it count." Lisa Monroe found solace in writing. She composed letters, not just to honor Aaron's memory, but also as a message to any beings who might one day visit Earth again. Her words were simple yet powerful. To whoever reads this, know that humanity is resilient. We are flawed, yes, but we fight for what we love. If you come seeking peace, you will find it. But if you come seeking conquest, you will face us, and we will not back down. Kelly Dawson returned to journalism, documenting the stories of those who had fought and survived. Her articles became a testament to human courage, reminding readers of the sacrifices made and the unity forged during humanity's darkest hour. In Crestwood, she led an effort to create memorials for the fallen, including one dedicated to Aaron Blake. Carved into stone were his final words, "Let me make it right." Jake Thompson stayed active in the Free Earth Alliance, training new recruits and preparing for whatever challenges lay ahead. Though haunted by memories of his lost family, he found purpose in protecting others. "We're still here," he often said. "And as long as we stand together, nothing can break us." As weeks turned into months, Earth began to heal. Crops grew again in fields once thought barren, and animals ventured cautiously back into the wild. The strange symbols left by the Valith faded under rain and wind, their eerie glow replaced by sunlight streaming through clear skies. Humanity wasn't the same. It couldn't be. But it was alive. One evening, Lisa stood atop a hill overlooking her hometown. The sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink. She held a small journal in her hands, its pages filled with thoughts and reflections about all they had endured. Closing it gently, she whispered, "This isn't the end. It's just the beginning." In the distance, children laughed as they played near newly planted trees. Birds chirped softly, their songs mingling with the hum of life returning to normalcy. Earth had faced doom and emerged stronger because of it. Whatever came next, humanity would face it together. And somewhere beyond the stars, perhaps someone, or something, was watching, waiting to see what this resilient species would do next. For now, though, Earth belonged to its people, and they intended to keep it that way.